Hey there, everyone. Let's jump into an awesome story that's going to grab your attention right from the start. Picture this, a girl named Mia Carter moves into a little house on Elm Street. It's a quiet street with green lawns and friendly dogs barking in the distance. Mia seems like a regular girl, nothing fancy, nothing loud. She's the new kid in the neighborhood, and most people don't even notice her. She keeps to herself, doesn't talk much, and never causes any trouble. But guess what? Not everyone thinks she's so boring. There's one person who's watching her like a hawk, and that's where the fun begins. That person is Karen Phillips. Karen is the boss of the neighborhood's HOA. HOA stands for Homeowners Association. It's a group that makes rules about how houses should look and what people can do. Karen loves being in charge. She walks around with a big clipboard, writing down every little thing she doesn't like. She's super nosy and thinks she owns the whole street. The second Mia moved in, Karen's eyes locked onto her like a cat spotting a mouse. Karen thought, this new girl better follow my rules, or else. It didn't take long for Karen to find something to complain about. One sunny day, she marched right up to Mia's house and pointed at the porch steps. You know, those little stairs that lead up to the front door? These steps are an inch too high. Karen yelled, her voice loud enough for the whole block to hear. She pulled out her pen and started scribbling on her clipboard, acting like it was the biggest problem in the world. This isn't allowed. I'm writing you up, she snapped. Mia, standing there in her jeans and sneakers, didn't say much. She just smiled a tiny smile and nodded her head, like she didn't care at all. But if you looked really close, you'd see something sneaky in her eyes. A little sparkle, like she knew something Karen didn't. What was it? Nobody had a clue, yet. Karen wasn't done, though. She kept coming back, day after day. One time, she banged on Mia's door because there was a flower pot on the porch. That's in the wrong spot, she shouted. Another time, she complained that Mia's mailbox was too shiny. It's not up to code, Karen said, waving her arms like a crazy person. The neighbors peeked out their windows, watching Karen boss Mia around. Some of them giggled, thinking Mia was just a quiet girl who couldn't fight back. Others just shook their heads and went back to their TV shows. But Mia? She didn't get mad. She didn't yell. She just kept smiling that little smile, like she had a secret plan brewing in her head. Here's the thing about Mia, she wasn't loud or flashy like Karen. She didn't wear fancy clothes or drive a big car. She was the kind of person you might walk past and not even notice. Her house was small, with plain white walls and a tiny garden out front. She'd sit on her porch sometimes, sipping lemonade and waving at kids riding their bikes. Everyone thought she was just a regular new neighbor trying to fit in. But looks can trick you, right? Sometimes the quiet ones are the ones you should watch out for. And Mia? Oh, she was definitely worth watching. Karen, though, didn't see it that way. She thought Mia was weak. This girl doesn't belong here, Karen muttered to herself one day, glaring at Mia's house from across the street. She wanted Mia to feel small, like she didn't matter. Every time Karen yelled or wrote something on her clipboard, she expected Mia to argue or cry. But Mia never did. She'd just stand there, hands in her pockets, looking calm as can be. It drove Karen nuts. Why doesn't she fight back? Karen wondered. What's wrong with her? But what Karen didn't know, what nobody knew, was that Mia wasn't scared at all. That little sparkle in her eyes? It was growing bigger every day. Let's stop for a second and think about this. Have you ever met someone who seemed super normal, like they couldn't do anything special? Maybe a kid at school who's quiet in class, or a neighbor who never talks much. And then bam, one day you find out they're actually amazing at something, like drawing, or skateboarding, or solving mysteries. That's what's so cool about people, you never know what's hiding inside them. And Mia? She was hiding something big. Something so big it was going to flip this whole neighborhood upside down. Want to know what it is? Stick with me, because this story's about to get wild. Karen kept picking on Mia, thinking she was winning. She'd strut around Elm Street like a queen, telling everyone how she was fixing the neighborhood. That new girl better learn her place, she'd say with a smirk. The neighbors didn't argue, they were too afraid of Karen's loud voice and her silly rules. But Mia wasn't afraid. Every time Karen came by, Mia would watch her closely, like she was studying her. She'd nod, smile, and then go back inside her little house. What was she doing in there? Was she mad? Was she planning something? Nobody knew, and that's what made it so exciting. One afternoon, a couple of kids rode their bikes past Mia's house. They saw Karen yelling about the steps again and laughed. "She's always mad at that girl," one kid said. "Yeah, but Mia's cool, she doesn't even care," the other replied. They were right, Mia didn't seem to care. But deep down, she cared a lot. Not about the steps or the flower pot or the mailbox, but about something way bigger. Something that was going to make Karen wish she'd never messed with her. The neighbors didn't know it yet, but Mia was like a superhero in disguise, waiting for the perfect moment to show who she really was. So here's a fun question for you: have you ever met someone who seemed totally ordinary, but turned out to be anything but? Maybe someone who surprised you with how smart or brave they were. Drop your answer in the comments, I'd love to hear your stories. And if you're liking this one so far, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what happens next. Because trust me, Mia's secret is about to come out, and it's going to be a total game changer. Karen's in for the shock of her life, and you won't want to miss it. That's where we'll leave it for now. Mia's just getting started, and Karen has no idea what's coming. The porch steps? They're just the beginning. Stick around, because this quiet girl is about to turn Elm Street into the talk of the town. What do you think Mia's hiding? Any guesses? Let's find out together in the next part. Okay, let's dive back into this crazy story about Mia and Karen. Things are about to get messy on Elm Street, and you're going to love it. Karen wasn't just a little annoying, she was super mean, like a grumpy cat that scratches everyone. She didn't just watch Mia from afar anymore. Oh no, she took it way further. She'd march right up to Mia's little house and bang on the door so loud the whole street could hear it. Boom, boom, boom. It was like she wanted everyone to know she was the boss. Why was she banging on the door? The silliest things. One day, it was because Mia had a flower pot on her porch. You know, one of those pots with pretty flowers that make everything look nice? Karen didn't think it was nice. "That's in the wrong spot," she shouted, pointing at it like it was a big crime. Another time, she got mad about Mia's mailbox. It was just a regular mailbox, painted blue, sitting by the road. But Karen said, "That's not up to code." Whatever that means, she probably made it up just to yell. She loved finding tiny things to complain about, and Mia was her favorite target. One sunny afternoon, Karen went even wilder. She stood right in front of Mia's house, hands on her hips, and screamed, "You don't belong here, newbie." Yep, she called Mia a newbie, like she was some kid who didn't know the rules. And she didn't whisper it, she yelled it so loud that all the neighbors heard. People peeked out their windows or stepped onto their porches to watch. Some of them laughed, thinking it was funny how Karen was picking on the quiet new girl. Others just shook their heads and turned away, like they didn't want to get involved. Everyone thought Mia was too shy to do anything about it. They figured she'd just take it and stay quiet, like always. But here's the thing, Mia didn't act like they expected. She didn't cry or yell back. She didn't even look scared. When Karen shouted at her, Mia just stood there, calm as can be. Her face didn't change, no frown, no tears, nothing. She'd stare at Karen with those sneaky eyes, the ones with that little sparkle, and then, she'd turn around, walk inside her house, and shut the door. Quietly. Click. That was it. No big fight, no angry words. Just silence. But that silence was spooky, because Mia wasn't doing nothing. Oh no, she was up to something. Every time Karen left, Mia would grab a little black notebook. It was small enough to fit in her pocket, with a plain cover and a pen tucked inside. She'd sit down at her kitchen table, open it up, and start writing. Scribble, scribble, scribble. What was she writing? Nobody knew, not the neighbors, not Karen, not even the kids riding their bikes past her house. It was her big secret, and she kept it all to herself. She'd write for a few minutes, then close the notebook and tuck it away where no one could find it. Was she making a list? Drawing something? Planning a trick? It was a mystery, and that made it so exciting. Karen didn't care about Mia's notebook, though. She didn't even notice it. She was too busy acting like the Queen of Elm Street. She'd walk around with her nose in the air, telling everyone what to do. Cut your grass, she'd yell at one house. Paint your fence, she'd snap at another. She had her clipboard in one hand and a pen in the other, always ready to write down more rules. To her, Mia was just a little bug she could squash whenever she wanted. That girl's no match for me, Karen probably thought, smirking to herself. She loved being mean, and she loved thinking she was winning. Her crown, well, not a real crown, but the way she acted like she ruled everything was shiny and tall in her mind. But guess what? It was about to fall right off her head. The neighbors didn't help Mia much. They saw Karen being rude, but they stayed quiet. Maybe they were scared of Karen too. She was loud and bossy, and nobody wanted her banging on their door next. So when Karen yelled at Mia, they'd giggle or look away, pretending it wasn't happening. Poor Mia, one lady whispered to her husband. She's too timid to stand up to Karen. That's what they all thought, that Mia was weak, that she'd never fight back. They didn't know the real Mia. They didn't see what was hiding behind her calm face and that sneaky little smile. Sometimes, Karen got even meaner. One day, she left a note on Mia's door. It said, "Fix your steps or else," in big, angry letters. Another time, she told the mailman to stop delivering Mia's letters because her mailbox was wrong. Can you believe that? Mia didn't argue with the mailman or rip up the note. She just picked it up, read it, and went inside. Then yep, you guessed it, she pulled out that little black notebook again. Scribble, scribble, scribble. The neighbors didn't see her writing, but if they had, they might have wondered, what's she doing? Why isn't she mad? Mia wasn't mad, though. She was patient, like a fox waiting for the perfect moment to sneak into the henhouse. Karen kept pushing and pushing, thinking she could make Mia leave. "I'll show her who's boss," she'd mutter, stomping around the street. She didn't know she was walking right into trouble. Every mean word, every bang on the door, every nasty note, it was all adding up. Mia wasn't running away or giving up. She was watching, waiting, and writing. That little black notebook was filling up with something big, something that was going to turn everything upside down. Karen thought she was the queen, but queens can lose their crowns, right? And Mia was ready to make that happen. So here's where things get juicy. Mia didn't flinch, not once. She didn't let Karen's meanness shake her. She stayed cool and quiet, like a superhero hiding her powers. The neighbors thought she was weak, but they were so wrong. Karen thought she was winning, but she was so wrong too. That little sparkle in Mia's eyes? It was getting brighter. That notebook? It was getting fuller. Something huge was coming, and Karen had no idea. Her crown was about to slip, and when it did, it'd fall hard. All right, let's keep this story rolling. Things on Elm Street are getting crazier, and you're going to love what happens next. Weeks went by after Karen started picking on Mia, and guess what? Karen didn't slow down, she got even bolder. She wasn't just banging on Mia's door anymore. Nope, she started leaving mean notes right on Mia's porch for everyone to see. These weren't nice little letters like you'd write to a friend. They were nasty, scribbled in big, angry letters. One note said, "Fix your steps or I'm calling the city." Another one said, "Your house is a mess, do something." Karen would stick them on the door or toss them on the porch, then march away like she'd won a prize. Mia didn't get mad, though. She'd pick up the notes, read them with that calm face of hers, and go back inside. The neighbors saw the notes too. Some kids riding bikes would stop and giggle, pointing at the papers flapping in the wind. "Karen's at it again," they'd say. But Mia? She didn't rip them up or yell. She'd just tuck them away and grab her little black notebook. Scribble, scribble, scribble. That notebook was her secret weapon, and she was filling it up with something big. What was it? We're getting closer to finding out. Karen kept getting meaner every day. She'd walk by Mia's house, glaring at the porch steps like they were her worst enemy. Those steps were just a tiny bit taller than the rules said they could be, barely enough to notice. But to Karen, it was a huge deal. She'd mutter to herself, "Those steps are illegal. I'll fix this." The neighbors started wondering if she'd ever stop. "She's obsessed," one lady whispered to her friend over the fence. "Poor Mia can't catch a break." But Mia didn't seem worried. She'd wave at the neighbors like nothing was wrong, sipping lemonade on her porch with that sneaky little smile. Then, one afternoon, Karen went way too far. It was a sunny day, with birds chirping and kids playing down the street. Karen stormed up to Mia's house, her face red and her clipboard shaking in her hand. She didn't just leave a note this time, she pulled out her phone and called 911. Yep, the emergency number you call for real problems, like a fire or a robber. But Karen? She wasn't calling about anything serious. She started screaming into the phone, "There's illegal porch steps at 12 Elm Street. It's a crime scene. Send help now." Her voice was so loud, it echoed off the houses. She waved her arms like a wild person, pointing at Mia's steps as if they were about to attack her. Mia was inside, watching it all from her window. She peeked through the curtains, her eyes locked on Karen. The neighbors came out to see what the fuss was about. "What's happening?" a man asked, scratching his head. "Karen's calling the cops over steps," a lady said, laughing. Soon, a police car rolled up, its lights flashing red and blue. Two officers stepped out, looking around. Karen ran over to them, still yelling. "Over here. Arrest her. Those steps are breaking the rules." She pointed at Mia's house, sure the cops would back her up. But here's the weird part, the police didn't even look at Mia's house. Not once. They didn't walk up to the porch or measure the steps. Instead, they turned their heads and stared right at Karen. One officer put his hand up and said, "Hold on, ma'am." Karen blinked, confused. "What? No, it's her. She's the problem," she shouted, jabbing her finger toward Mia's window. But the cops didn't move. They just kept looking at Karen, their faces serious. The neighbors went quiet, watching with big eyes. Something strange was happening, and everyone could feel it. Mia, still at her window, cracked a tiny smile. It wasn't a big grin, just a little curve of her lips, like she'd been waiting for this exact moment. Her eyes sparkled more than ever, and she leaned closer to the glass. What did she know that Karen didn't? Why wasn't she scared? The cops took a step toward Karen, and her loud voice started to shake. "Wait, what's going on?" she asked, her clipboard dropping to her side. The officers didn't answer her yet, they just kept walking closer. The air felt thick, like a storm was about to hit. "Let's think about this for a second." Karen thought she was so smart, calling the police on Mia. She was sure they'd take her side and make Mia fix those steps. But now, the cops were looking at her instead. Why? What was going on? Mia's smile said she had a secret, a big one. That little black notebook she kept writing in? It had to be part of this. She'd been so quiet, so patient, watching Karen act like a bully for weeks. And now, something was flipping. The neighbors could feel it too. "Is Karen in trouble?" a kid whispered to his mom. "SHH, let's see," she replied, her eyes wide. Karen's boldness was starting to crumble. She'd been so loud, so sure of herself, leaving notes and yelling at Mia like she owned the whole street. But this time, she'd gone too far, and it was backfiring. The cops weren't here for Mia, they were here for Karen. Mia's tiny smile grew just a bit bigger as she watched from her window. She didn't say a word, didn't move, just stood there like she'd planned this all along. The neighbors started whispering. "What's Mia up to?" one asked. "I don't know, but Karen's not happy," another said, giggling. The tension was building, like when you're waiting for the best part of a movie. Karen's face went from red to white, and her hands shook a little. She'd called the cops to get Mia in trouble, but now they were closing in on her. Mia's secret was starting to peek out, little by little. That notebook, those quiet days, that calm way she handled Karen's meanness, it was all leading to this. What did she write in there? Why were the cops ignoring the steps? The answers were coming, and they were going to be huge. So here's where we're at. Karen thought she was winning, but she just stepped into a trap. Mia wasn't just some quiet girl, she was smart, sneaky, and ready. The cops were about to say something, and it was going to change everything. What do you think's going to happen next? Can you guess Mia's secret? Stick around, because the big surprise is right around the corner, and it's going to blow your mind. Here we go, everyone, this is the part you've been waiting for. Things on Elm Street are about to explode with the biggest surprise yet. The cops had just pulled up because Karen called them, screaming about Mia's porch steps. She thought she was so clever, getting Mia in trouble. But now, the police were standing right in front of her, and something wild was happening. Karen's face, usually red from yelling, went super pale, like she'd seen a ghost. One of the officers, a tall guy with a serious look, stepped closer and said, "Ma'am, we're not here for the steps. We're here for you." Karen blinked fast, like her brain couldn't catch up. "Me," she said, her voice all squeaky. "What are you talking about?" She looked around, hoping someone would help her, but the neighbors were just staring, their mouths open. The second officer, a lady with a notepad, nodded at the tall guy, and they both stayed right there, blocking Karen's path. She started to sweat, her hands shaking a little. She'd been so loud, so bossy, but now she looked small and confused. What was going on? Why were the cops after her? That's when the front door of Mia's little house creaked open. Everyone turned to look, and out stepped Mia. She wasn't hiding behind her window anymore. She walked onto her porch, calm as could be, holding that little black notebook in her hands. The sun hit her face, and her eyes sparkled like never before. She didn't look scared or shy, she looked strong. Karen stared at her, still not getting it. Mia stopped at the edge of her porch, looked right at Karen, and said, "I think it's time you learned who I really am." Her voice wasn't loud, but it was clear and steady, like she meant every word. The neighbors gasped. The kids on their bikes stopped pedaling. Even the birds seemed to hush up. Mia opened her notebook, just a little, and held it up so everyone could see it was full of writing. Then she dropped the biggest surprise ever. "I'm not just some quiet newbie," she said. "I'm an undercover investigator. I've been watching you, Karen, because you've been breaking HOA rules and stealing money from the neighbors." Boom. It was like a thunderclap hit Elm Street. Karen's jaw dropped so low it almost touched the ground. The truth slammed into her like a ton of bricks, and she couldn't even speak. "Let's break this down, because it's so cool." Mia wasn't just a regular girl who moved in. She was a secret investigator, like a detective in a movie, but real. Her job was to catch bad guys, and Karen was the bad guy here. Turns out, Karen wasn't just bossy, she was sneaky too. She'd been making up fake rules for the HOA, the group that's supposed to keep the neighborhood nice. She told people they had to pay fines for silly things, like having a mailbox she didn't like or grass that was too long. Then she kept the money for herself instead of using it for the neighborhood. She was scamming everyone, and nobody knew until Mia showed up. Mia had been super smart about it. Every time Karen yelled at her, left a mean note, or banged on her door, Mia wrote it down in that little black notebook. She didn't just write about the yelling, though. She'd been sneaking around, collecting proof that Karen was a thief. Those notes Karen left? Mia kept them. Those rude words Karen shouted? Mia remembered every one. And that call to 911 about the steps? That was the last piece Mia needed. She'd been building a case against Karen the whole time, waiting for the perfect moment to show the truth. Karen's eyes went wide as Mia talked. "No way," she finally yelled, shaking her head. "You're lying. I didn't do anything." But the cops didn't buy it. The lady officer pulled out her notepad and started reading. "Karen Phillips, you've been charging fake fines and keeping the cash. We've got bank records, witness statements, and now this 911 call where you wasted police time." Karen's face turned red again, but not from anger, from embarrassment. She'd been caught, and everyone could see it. The neighbors started whispering like crazy. "She took my money," one man shouted, stepping forward. "I paid $50 because she said my fence was wrong." A lady chimed in, "Me too. She fined me for my dog barking." Kids giggled, pointing at Karen like she was the bad guy in a cartoon. Mia stood there, still calm, letting it all sink in. She'd tricked Karen big time. All those weeks of being quiet, smiling, and writing in her notebook, it was a plan. A super smart plan to stop Karen's bullying and stealing. Karen tried to argue more. "This is ridiculous. She's the problem, not me," she yelled, pointing at Mia. But the tall officer shook his head. "We've got proof, ma'am. You're coming with us." He pulled out a pair of shiny handcuffs, and the crowd went oh. Karen's hands dropped to her sides, and she looked like she might cry. She'd thought she was the queen of Elm Street, but now she was just a caught crook. Mia's tiny smile got a little bigger, and she nodded at the cops like she was saying, "Go ahead. Let's think about this for a sec." Karen had been so mean to Mia, thinking she was weak. She yelled, left notes, and even called the cops, sure she'd win. But Mia? She was way ahead. That little black notebook was like a treasure chest full of secrets that proved Karen was the real troublemaker. Every rude word, every fake rule, every stolen dollar, Mia had it all written down. And when Karen called 911, she didn't just mess up, she gave Mia the perfect chance to show who she really was. It was like Mia set a trap, and Karen walked right into it. The neighbors couldn't believe it. "Mia's a hero," a kid shouted, jumping up and down. "She's like a spy," another said, grinning. They'd all thought Mia was just a quiet girl who couldn't fight back. But now, they saw her in a whole new way. She wasn't timid, she was tough. She wasn't weak, she was clever. And that sparkle in her eyes? It was there because she knew she'd win all along. Karen's jaw stayed dropped, her brain spinning as the truth hit her harder and harder. Okay, here's where everything wraps up on Elm Street. It's time for justice. The cops had just caught Karen red-handed, and now they were ready to finish the job. The tall officer pulled out his shiny handcuffs, and click-click, they snapped right around Karen's wrists. She tried to wiggle free, but nope, those cuffs weren't going anywhere. Her face went from mad to scared real fast. The neighbors, still watching from their windows and porches, couldn't believe it. They started whispering to each other, their voices buzzing like bees. "She's been overcharging us for years," one man yelled, stepping out of his house. He waved his arms, super mad. "I paid her money for my fence, and it was fine." Another lady popped up, holding her little dog. "She fined me for nothing," she shouted. "She said my pup barked too much, but he's quiet." More people joined in, talking about all the times Karen made them pay for silly rules she made up. They'd been tricked, and now they were angry but also happy because the truth was out. Mia stood on her porch, calm as ever. She held that little black notebook, the one full of all her secrets, and handed it to the lady cop. "Here's the proof," Mia said, her voice steady. The cop flipped through the pages, tons of them, and nodded. It was all there, every mean note Karen left, every rude thing she said, every dollar she stole from the neighbors. Mia had written it all down, like a superhero keeping a list of a villain's bad deeds. The cops knew now that Karen wasn't just bossy, she was a thief who'd been bullying everyone. The police car's lights flashed as they opened the door. "Let's go," the tall officer said, guiding Karen inside. She didn't yell anymore, she just looked down, quiet and ashamed. The car started up, and off it went, driving Karen away from Elm Street. The neighbors watched it disappear around the corner, and then they turned to Mia. She stepped off her porch and faced the crowd. "No one should live scared of a tyrant," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Not anymore. A tyrant's like a mean ruler, and that's what Karen had been. But now, her ruling days were done." The crowd erupted into cheers. "Yay, Mia," a kid shouted, clapping his hands. "You're the best," a lady called out, smiling big. They all started clapping and whistling, like Mia was a star. And she was. They'd thought she was just a quiet girl, too shy to fight back. But now they saw the real Mia, a hero who'd saved them from Karen's tricks. She didn't need to yell or brag. She just used her brain and that notebook to make things right. Karen wouldn't be bossing anyone around for a long time. With all that proof, she was in big trouble, maybe even jail. The neighbors felt free, like a heavy weight was gone. Mia smiled at them, a real smile this time, not just a sneaky one. Elm Street was peaceful again, and it was all because of her. Justice was served, and it felt so good. Wow, what a story, right? Let's wrap it up with some big thoughts that'll stick with you. So, just like that, Mia, the quiet girl next door, turned everything upside down on Elm Street. She took on Karen, the big neighborhood bully, and won in the coolest way. It's kind of funny when you think about it. Everyone saw Mia as the shy, regular girl who didn't talk much. They thought she was weak because she didn't yell or fight back like Karen did. But guess what? That's where they got it all wrong. Mia wasn't weak at all, she was super strong, just in a quiet way. Karen made a big mistake. She judged Mia by how silent she was. She thought, oh, this girl's easy to boss around, she won't do anything. But that silence. It was Mia's secret power. While Karen was shouting and leaving mean notes, Mia was watching, thinking, and writing in her little black notebook. She didn't need to be loud to be tough. She used her brain and her patience to catch Karen in the act. It's like she was a ninja, sneaking up on the bad guy without anyone noticing until bam, she saved the day. That's the cool thing about people. Sometimes the ones who seem the weakest are actually the strongest of all. Mia didn't brag or show off. She didn't need to. She let her actions do the talking, and boy, did they talk loud at the end. Karen thought she was the queen, but Mia proved that real power doesn't come from being mean or noisy. It comes from being smart and brave, even when no one else sees it. It's like a hidden treasure, quiet on the outside, but shiny and amazing once you find it. So here's something to think about: next time you meet someone who doesn't brag or shout, don't count them out. Watch them closely, because they might just surprise you. Maybe it's a kid at school who's super quiet but turns out to be awesome at drawing. Or maybe it's a neighbor who doesn't say much but helps everyone when they need it. Those quiet people? They could be the ones to change everything, just like Mia did. You never know what's hiding behind a smile or a calm face. It's like a mystery waiting to pop out and wow you. Have you ever underestimated someone who turned out to be amazing? Maybe you thought they couldn't do something, but then they did it better than anyone else. I bet you've got a story like that. Tell me about it down below, I'd love to hear what you think. Did someone surprise you like Mia surprised Karen? Was it a friend, a family member, or even you? Stories like that are so fun because they show how awesome people can be when you least expect it. Mia's adventure teaches us something big: don't judge people too fast. The quiet ones, the ones who don't make a fuss, they might be the strongest heroes around. Karen learned that the hard way, and now Elm Street is a happier place because of it. So keep your eyes open and your heart ready. The next big surprise could be right next door, waiting to change the world. What do you say? Ready to cheer for the quiet heroes out there? Let's give them a big shout out together.